Okay, I was trying to get there. Thanks, Evie. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us and welcome to Increasing Hope's monthly webinar. This month, we are talking about, so you want to start a nonprofit. We get a lot of questions and inquiries from both our small business owners and just individuals in the community in reference to, should I start a nonprofit? What does it take to start a nonprofit? And I tell you, I could not think of a better person to help us make an introduction to you of some of the steps and the process and the procedure of actually becoming that nonprofit, no matter where you are. And so we have with us today Mr. Daniel Stern, who's a graduate of the Citadel. He currently is the co-owner of a nonprofit project management company right here in Charleston called Calloway Stern Group. He is a self-described bootstrapper. I like those type of people, Daniel. And he has worked for 3 Lowcountry nonprofit organizations as the executive director over the past 10 years in the field of community development, economic development, and foundational support. So Daniel knows his stuff, guys. And so Daniel has also served on the board of 2 local nonprofit organizations that happen to serve individuals with disabilities. And so Daniel and I have quickly become fast friends just recently, reconnected in the community, and thought that he would be a great person to bring this information to us today. And Daniel, we too at Increasing Hope are looking forward to working with you and as a consultant and the work that you're doing in the community. And so thank you for being with us today. And with that said, I am going to turn it over to you to go ahead and pull up your slides. And I'm going to stop my share. Love that background picture there.
Thank you.
So you can pull your slides up and take it away. And Ebby and I will be watching the chat for you. Okay.
All right. Sounds great. Are we back? Okay. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This is really exciting. With the work that I do work with a lot of folks that are considering starting nonprofits. And so when Dorothea approached me with this opportunity, I was very excited. So thank you guys for being here, and I will value your time. And we have a lot to cover, so I'll move pretty quickly, and we can do questions at the end, after we've gone through everything. So let me see if I can make this screen share happen. All right, can everyone still hear me?
Yes, you're good, and it looks great.
Okay, great. All right, guys. So what we're going to be covering today, we'll talk about the resources for starting nonprofits, whether your idea should be a nonprofit or a for-profit, some regulatory issues, deciding your mission, vision, values, board of directors, and planning, and then how to market your nonprofit. So I will just dive right in. And we also have a poll up. Dorothea and Ebony are going to share that. It'll kind of tell us what age your nonprofit is. Is it just starting up, or has it been around for a couple of years? So if you fill that out, that would be great. A little bit about my company. So again, like Dorothea said, I've been an executive director 3 times in Charleston. And what I needed was help getting things done. I needed capacity building. I didn't need advice. I needed people to help me get things done. And so that's kind of why we started Calloway Stern Group, to help moderate-sized nonprofits with getting things done in fundraising, administration, and programming. So that's just a little bit about us. And so we'll start here. I put together a list of a couple of resources for you if you're considering starting a nonprofit. They range from Together SC, which is a statewide organization that has a ton of different resources for starting an organization. It has access to the forms that you would need, and a lot of different, it can answer a ton of different questions that you have as far as starting a nonprofit. Then next we have the Secretary of State website, which details a lot more of the process and has all the paperwork that you would need to start a nonprofit. Then this is an organization that I found. These are services that can do this work for you. In my history, I think that it's better to do that paperwork yourself so that you know everything. But there are services that you can pay for that will fill out that paperwork for you. And then the IRS website, which is where you would submit all your information. So the next part, Dorothea and I actually had a nice conversation about this when deciding whether your idea should be a nonprofit or a for-profit. We're both sort of the same mind that we wanted to make sure that people knew the differences and could better weigh whether their idea should be a nonprofit or a for-profit. The biggest question is your capital, where it's going to come from. If you're a for-profit business, you are selling a product or a service, and you are obviously for money and to clients, and that, oops, I've got to go back. Let me go back, sorry guys.
While you're doing that, Daniel, 60% of our nonprofits are 1 year old or less. And so we have 60% of our individuals are brand new.
Oh, excellent. Sorry, my computer's running slow. I apologize, folks. And it is not wanting to come up. That's not good. Sorry, folks. Give me just 1 second here. Seems like I've lost it.
And Tashana, you're asking if the presentation will be shared. We will most definitely make sure that you get those links in a follow-up email.
Is everyone able to see my screen again?
We cannot, Daniel.
Okay, my apologies. Let's see here. Okay, let me.
So you may at the top of your Zoom tab say stop sharing, which it seems like you already have, but then a new share. There you go.
Okay, let's see here. Are we back?
Yes, we can see your screen. We just need to pull the presentation up.
Okay. How about now?
Yes, you're good.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Sorry for that. So capital and how you plan to acquire it. In a for-profit, stakeholders receive dividends when there's a profit. So you're selling your product or service, and anyone who's invested in your business, whether it's just you or you have a partner or you have a group of people that are putting the business together, any profits are shared amongst those people. When you have a nonprofit, any profit that you make that is not for operating or anything like that is reinvested into the organization. Usually that's in service to your vision, where you see your organization going in 2, 3, 5, 10 years. For example, if you are working with children in a school setting, but you ultimately want to have a building where you can have children come and do services, you may take those profits every year and put them aside for that building that you're saving for. And those are the two main differences there. Dorothy and I also talked about the need for staying accredited. One of the things that you'll find with nonprofits, and most of you people are starting them, there's a ton of paperwork, and it continues, it doesn't end, especially towards the end of the year. I included here the different forms that you need to fill out to stay accredited. I do have kind of a little horror story. An organization I took over had not filed their 990 in 2 years. And when I went to speak to the Secretary of State in their office, we had a large fine waiting for us to get reaccredited. So it's very important to make sure that when at the end of the year you're filing those tax forms, and I have them here. They're all Form 990s, but they're basically um, they're separated by the amount of revenue that you bring in. A 990N is for $50,000 and lower. A 990 EZ is 50,000 to 250,000, and then a Form 990 is 250,000 to above. You can do these forms yourself. I have, in my time, I've always used at least a bookkeeper to do them for me. In some organizations I've worked with, we did have an accounting firm contracted, so they did that because some of them, the Form 990 can be a little bit complicated. With your organizations as they grow, your revenue sources will expand, and you'll have hopefully money coming in from a lot of different things, whether it's grants, individual donations, and a lot of different things to keep track of. But I think that up until you get to that point, doing it yourself is certainly possible and is something that you should consider just because you want to know everything going on in your organization. But also, a bookkeeper is sort of the less expensive option for someone that can keep track of your finances and make sure that those forms get filed on time. And of course, if you do not file your taxes over a certain amount of time, your 501c3 status gets revoked, and you have to pay a fine to get it reinstated. The next thing, this is getting into more of the fun stuff. We're getting out of the paperwork admin side into more of the reasons why you're doing your nonprofit, who you're going to help, and those types of things, which is the more fun part in my mind. When starting your nonprofit, you need to decide your mission, your vision, and your values. Your mission being what it is that you're going to do in the community and how you'll achieve that goal. And then your vision, where your organization is going. So in a lot of cases, you'll be, for example, if you're working with school-age children and you're tutoring them, just say that, for example, your vision may be that all of the students in whichever area that you're doing that are able to attend college or hit some benchmarks. And that may be your vision for the organization. It's sort of looking into the future and seeing where you want your organization to go. And then the values are what it is your organization believes in. For example, in that tutoring example, we believe that all children should have access to extra educational options, and whatever the case is for that. When you do your website and when you have marketing materials, these are things that you want to have on there. They are things that potential funders will look for, and people that want to be associated with your organization will decide if it's right for them almost initially, but of course by meeting you and hearing about what you're doing. But they'll look on your website and you say, wow, do I connect with that mission? Does that vision make sense to me? And do we share the same values? And I think it's extremely important. It's a bedrock of what your organization does. I could put Dorothea on the spot. Dorothea, could you quickly tell us the mission and vision and values for Increasing Hope?
Okay, well, the mission of Increasing Hope is creating financial freedom for families in South Carolina by providing them with financial education and training to help them gain, sustain assets. And our vision was to become an innovative provider of financial services in the state of South Carolina, hosting a one-stop shop location, and that's about to come to pass. Woo! And then our values are: we value integrity, we value collaboration, and we value, there was one other one. So, but those are the two: integrity, collaboration, and excellence. How could I forget that one? Excellence. Do everything you do in excellence, ladies.
And did you come up with that, or was there a group of people that came up with those, or was that? you spearheading?
Well, just like some of the ladies on the call, you're kind of all by yourself when you first start out. But we did go through the process of once, everybody was on board, that we looked at all of those and they got the okay and the approval of the current board at that time. But yeah, I came up with them. Mm-hmm.
And ladies, everybody on the call, you have to know that this is very front facing, and this is,
Yeah.
you're creating a community entity when you're doing a nonprofit. It's not necessarily something that you own. In the instance of a for-profit business, you own that. For lack of a better explanation, the community owns the nonprofit that you're creating. The board of directors and you, if you're the executive director, you are the agents of that nonprofit, but it is for the benefit of the community. So when you're coming up with these three different very important things for the organization, keep that in mind for sure. Board of directors, how they work, and we want to get them to work. That's the big thing. So when you form your organization, one of the things that is very important and is a huge part of your success will be your board of directors. So you may be a part of that board of directors. You may be considered the executive director of your nonprofit. But your board of directors are really the agents and representatives to the community for your organization. They are ultimately responsible for the success or failure of your organization as well. You are, as the founder, of course, but the stakeholders that are involved day to day and keeping track of the financials and all different things like that are ultimately responsible for the success or failure of your organization, and also its place in the community. A good board of directors, starting out size 5 to 7 people, is pretty good. I think that sounds about right. If you're planning to be just you as the only employee, that's a great size of organization, a great size of board of directors to have, because that's the amount of people you may be able to manage. Because what you will find as the founder is you will be wrangling some of these people. You will be communicating with a lot of different folks. So you want to make sure that number is reasonable for you, but also that they are working for you and helping you get things done. When we talk about
Daniel, I'd like to chime in here real quick and just ask a question.
Sure.
For clarification. Should I put my husband on my board?
That is a great question. You should not put your husband on your board. You should not put your friends on your board, with the caveat of the next part. The board of directors, you want rock stars. You want superstars in the areas that you need help with. And they should also be connected to your mission. A great way of recruiting board members is using LinkedIn or Facebook and finding out if the people that you're connected with connect with your mission. If your mission is tutoring children in school, find out if there are people that you're connected with that are already doing that work, that are maybe just volunteers. Well, your organization may come along and now they could be a board member there. That would be a really cool opportunity. But the three places that your board really, really needs to help out with, in support of you as the founder / executive director, if that's the case for your organization, they need to help in fundraising, administration, and programming. And what I will say is that relationship, that agreement should be in place at the beginning. I have been a part of organizations where there was no fundraising commitment for our board of directors. And it was something that we put in place afterwards, after this organization was 40 years old. So it was kind of towards the end. But that was not the expectation that the people had coming in. When you approach a potential board member, you want to meet with them and explain to them your passion, your vision for what you're going to do, and your expectations of them. Because there are a ton of different people that can help you, but the main thing is to make sure that they know all of your expectations going in. If you want to say you have to donate $1,000 towards this organization every single year, if that's what your economic realities are, then that is what you need to tell these board people, because they need to know going in what's expected of them. I say fundraising, administration, and programming because what you'll find as the founder of an organization is those are the areas you're really going to need help in. And you'll also know what you're most passionate about, what you like to spend your time doing. And what your board of directors will do is they will help supplement the areas where you may not be as strong or you may not be as knowledgeable. Um, like we said before, the funding of your organization is a huge part, and an entire plan needs to be created for that. But there is a lot of different things that go into that, and you need to. It's more than a one person job, and it really is. And so that's kind of setting. That's why I said set that expectation because you need these people's help. Um, that's a board of directors that is active can make or break an organization, and that's a reality that you really can't get away from. You want to have people that are going to work. You don't want to have people on your board of directors that are there for any glamour reasons, or if they feel like they're doing you a favor. That's not what you need. You need someone who connects with your mission and will help you in those three key areas. Any questions on board members? Dorothea, do you have any other input on board members?
No, Danielle, I think you spoke very well on that. And you want people that are, you may never find anyone as passionate as you are, but you do want people that have a passion for what you're doing and have a heart for what you're doing and really, really connect with your mission and your vision and the purpose of your organization. And we have one hand raised. We have Robert with his hand raised. If you want to go ahead and unmute and ask your question, Robert. Okay. All right. If you want to put it in the chat, Robert, we'll come back to it and answer it. Go ahead, Daniel.
Okay, great. I'll give you guys a great real world example. So the last organization I was involved with was called Five Fish Foundation. And what we did was we raised funds for individuals with disabilities for things outside of insurance. So summer camps, medical devices, and things like that. Individuals with disabilities in the state lose a lot of their benefits when they leave high school. So we created that organization to do that. And as we were researching board members, one of the things that we wanted to make sure that people had was some connection to the people with disabilities community in the Lowcountry. So every one of our board members had someone that they were related to that had a disability. We do that so that that was kind of the first hurdle to say, okay, we know that they connect with this mission because they've lived it day to day. They interact with a person who is a part of that community every single day. Then we look at what is their expertise. Is their expertise in fundraising? Are they administration, or are they a programming person? And then that's kind of helps to supplement those areas for you. The last piece on your board of directors is your bylaws. Your bylaws is a document that you'll create, and there are form bylaws that you can find very easily through Google. They are something that you will want looked over by an attorney. There are many nonprofit attorneys in town, and it is not necessarily an expensive endeavor to have your bylaws looked over, but you do want to have them. You do want to complete them to the best of your ability before you turn them over to an attorney, because as everybody knows, you don't want to go back and forth to an attorney. That does get expensive. But your bylaws are basically the rules and laws that your organization uses to govern itself. For example, your bylaws will have the term limits for your board of directors. They will say, okay, a board member comes on and they do a 2-year term with us, and then they have to be off for at least 1 year before they can go on for another 2 years. They talk about compensation. If you are planning to be compensated as the executive director for your organization, that is in there. The documents also empower the board of directors. Whether that gives them the ability to hire and fire staff people. And it sets a lot of different expectations. It is a fairly it's a complicated document when you first get started on it, but it really, it sets forth a lot of the parts of your organization. For instance, when you'll have your board meetings, how they are documented, and different things of that nature. Um, it's sort of an all-encompassing document, but you know that's another thing that I would try and fill out myself. How you want your organization to run. It's a cumbersome document, but it's very, very important. So
Daniel, I feel like I need to say this here as well. Just like many of our small business owners that we serve, they feel like they're or sense that there's a need to go out and pay other individuals to do this work for them. And while you most definitely can do that, this is something that you can do yourself. And so please, I think would just put out a word of warning. Be careful of engaging individuals for large sums of money who say they will set up your nonprofit for you, because this is not something that you can't do for yourself. If you would take the time to learn the steps and research the steps, and maybe just have someone come along beside you to give you guidance. That's pretty much what I did. I just beat the streets and I asked folks questions, and I wrote my own nonprofit application, sent everything in, and did it as a bootstrapper myself. So you can also, but just be leery of feeling like you need to pay someone else a lot of money to do this, because it's not that complicated, really.
I would agree. I would agree with Dorothea. It's a lot of paperwork. It is time consuming, but it is not something that you can't get a handle on. And also, you want to have ownership of your organization, so you want to know every single thing that is going to go on, that is going on, and is going to go on. So the exercise of doing this work yourself is important. I would agree with Dorothea. There are people that will charge far too much to do this work for you. So definitely be wary of that. I think that leaning on mentors, leaning on people that are currently in the nonprofit space that may walk side by side with you and give you advice, it's a terrific environment and community for that, as far as helping out, and helping offset costs and things like that. I mean, every nonprofit person is a bootstrapper, I think, in some way, shape, or form. So if you're just starting out, that's a great community to get connected with, to help, before you pay someone to do something that you could probably do yourself. That's very, very well told. Next, we'll get into planning, and planning it's a lot of fun. I enjoy this part. It's the same thing as business planning if you were doing a for-profit. It's essentially how you're going to get where it is that you want to go. When we talk about the two forms of planning that I think are most important, they're strategic planning and fundraising planning. With strategic planning, it's best done if you have your board of directors in place. It's great to include them in that, because it's another way to further connect them to your mission. If you're presenting them a strategic plan that's completed, that is certainly a way to do it, and that's totally fine. And I've seen it be successful both ways. But I think that involving people in that process further connects them to your mission. So I would consider that. And so a strategic planning process involves a lot of different things, namely, just ways of figuring out the strengths of your organization, the weaknesses of your organization, the opportunities that may present themselves to your organization, and then the threats that you may encounter. So the strengths of your organization may be your knowledge of your mission, your board of directors. Say you have an awesome board of directors that work really hard and raise money. That's a huge strength. A strength may be that what you're doing is not done in the community. That's very, very, those are really strong strengths. Weaknesses might include the fact that you've never run a nonprofit before, the fact that your board of directors have never been a board of directors before, the fact that you've never raised money before. Those are some weaknesses. It's good to identify those because that's what the areas you need to strengthen. when we talk about opportunities, that's people you can partner with. I go back to the tutoring example. If I know 3 schools that will pay me to do this right now. That's great opportunities. That's really awesome. And you'd also look at that in terms of opportunities throughout the Lowcountry to say there are 300 schools. So that's how many opportunities we have. Threats would be, are there other organizations doing what you're doing? And that, that calls into question whether you should do a nonprofit doing what you're doing if there are already multiple organizations in a small geographic area doing it. It may be something that you consider putting on the shelf for a little while. Because in the nonprofit space, when you start duplicating efforts, it makes it difficult on everyone involved. That's a little aside, but just something you should know in terms of threats. Your threat may also be that you can't do this full time because it starts off with 0 income and you need to have a job because you've got to support your family or whatever the case is. So a threat to you is going to be the amount of time you can actually put into this. So then you take all of those different pieces and you start building out the plan. How are we going to strengthen these areas of weakness? How are we going to use these strengths to get us to the next level? How will we take advantage of these opportunities and how will we avoid these threats? And so there are form strategic plan documents online as well. That's something that you can certainly find for free. It is sometimes good to work with someone who has done that before. If, say, for instance, you have a goal I want to raise $1 million. Okay. Well, we need to break that down probably into multiple years because I don't think we're going to raise $1 million in our first year of operation. Dorothea, did you raise $1 million in your first year of
Absolutely not.
Right. So it's also about, having a group of people that will be realistic with you, but can also create that roadmap to get there, because it is a possibility in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years to get to that number. There are certainly things that you can do to get to that point. So I like it in a group setting, but it is also something that you can do on your own with just maybe a mentor or someone to kind of be a sounding board. Then fundraising plan. This is like my bread and butter. This is what I enjoy. That is, how much is it going to take to run this organization? And that can encompass, how will I pay myself? How will I pay any staff? How will I pay any of my overhead costs, and still be able to accomplish this mission that I've put on my website and out into the community? Excuse me. And I like to take that number and what I say is reverse engineer it. If it's going to take $100,000 to do that, how are we going to raise that money? And there are certain parts of a nonprofit fundraising that you can basically use to create that pie chart. A pie chart's a great way to do that. Let's just say $100,000. And you can say, okay, my programs that I run, every day or a couple of days a week are going to raise X amount of dollars. I'm going to apply for grants to pay for another certain amount of that pie. I am going to seek individual donations in the community to pay for another part. I am going to look for major gifts, which are people that are willing to donate whatever you would consider to be a large sum of money for your organization. So that can range from $100 to $100,000, depending on your goals. Corporate sponsorships. So if you know businesses that are willing to support you in exchange for being associated with your mission and your organization, that's corporate sponsorships. And then special events. That's your chili cook-off, your golf tournament, your music concert, whatever the case may be. People pay a fee to go attend those things, and that becomes revenue for you. So what you do is you take that fundraising number that you want to raise, and you look at these different categories, and you say, okay, here are my different categories to raise money. How much can I raise in each category? And then the plan to do that. So for instance, individual donations. You say, I want to raise $20,000 in individual donations. Okay. Well, you're just starting out. So the first group that you would look for most likely, and this is a little intuitive, is your friends and family. To say, I'm starting a nonprofit to tutor kids in schools. Would you be willing to support me? And if you have a large family and a lot of friends that are willing to give you a certain amount of money, that can help you get towards that. The other thing that you would do is go out into the community and market yourself and go to events and make sure that people knew who you were. Have a presence on social media, and then take those people that support you in those verticals and convert those people into donors. And I'll touch a little bit on kind of how you would do that. So you may have someone, you may put a post from your organization on Facebook, and you may have someone that likes it every single time. Every week you post, every week they like. Well, that's someone that either connects with you or they connect with your organization and your mission. And that's someone that you should try and get in touch with. And what you do from there is you build a relationship with that person. And you say, whether you send them your newsletter, you write them an email or a letter, you tell them about the kids that you're tutoring in schools and how much you've done. You invite them to a special event, whatever the case may be, however you engage them. And then at the end of that process, you say, okay, this person who really liked us has grown a lot closer to our organization. I think that it's a fair thing to take them out to coffee or to lunch and ask them to donate towards our organization. Just say, and that's really you building a relationship and then taking that person and seeing what you may think they could do financially and asking them. And what I will tell you in my history of fundraising is two things. One is, if you don't ask, you don't get. There are a lot of organizations out there that don't do the asking. They expect the donors to come to them. And that's really not how it works. Same thing with corporate sponsorships, grants, major gifts, even special events. People aren't going to find you. You've got to find them, and you've got to communicate with them many, many times to get them engaged with your organization. Every one of these things is about relationship building, grants, all of these things. They're all about relationship building. And then people will tell you the path that they want to go on. If you reach out to a grant, they may say, oh, not at this time, but definitely apply next year. Well, that's great. They've now given you now know that person, and they've told you to apply. So you should feel okay about when you apply, the possibility that you may successfully get that grant. So I would, that's a little diatribe on fundraising, on the relationship building that goes into fundraising. But all of these different pieces, that's really what it's all about. And your plan is the roadmap for that. Also, in terms of fundraising, when you're doing your planning, you're going to be able to say how much, excuse me, I'm getting sick over here, I guess it's too cold out. You're going to be able to say, I can handle this much. I can talk to this many individual donors, write this many grants, do this many corporate sponsorships, run this special event, and also do the day-to-day of my organization, or also do my day job. I need my board of directors to fill in the rest of this. And that is a part of that initial agreement that you have with them. You say, I am going to be, we want to raise $100,000. I am personally going to be responsible for 50 of it. I am charging my board of directors to be in charge of the other 50. And as long as that is an agreement that's made up front, that is completely reasonable. And then you work together to figure out how you're going to do that. That's just a little bit on strategic and fundraising planning. And then my last part is about marketing, getting the word out about your organization. So you've done the paperwork, you've got your 501c3 status back. You've got your board of directors, you've got your bylaws, you've got your plan, you know how to execute it, you know what you're going to do, you've got your website, you're ready to go. How are people going to learn about you? And it's the same thing as a for-profit. You're going to market yourself. You're going to market your business. So whether that is through social media, if you're able to put money towards a sponsored social media campaign. I'm again a bootstrapper, grassroots type of a guy. I like to go out and meet people. I like to put what I'm doing out there in the public, and what comes back are people that are interested in working with you. That's usually the case. So there's a thing in here that says you're a community organization, so you should be out in the community. If you are an organization that tutors kids in schools, you should be going to the First Day Festival that the city of Charleston puts on. You should be going to different opportunities for nonprofits to showcase themselves. You should be going to different networking events, because you are an entrepreneur. Whether you're for profit or nonprofit, you are an entrepreneur. This is a business that you are running. So there's a couple of examples in here. 1 Million Cups Charleston is a great organization in West Ashley. They meet every Wednesday, and it's entrepreneurs in a lot of different fields, but certainly nonprofit people are there as well. And it's basically a really cool environment to say, hey, I'm a nonprofit entrepreneur. Here's what I'm doing. I've got this coming up. Would anyone be willing to help me? And that community will say, I'll help, I'll do this. And it starts building that way. It's a really cool community, and definitely something to look into if you continue down this road. Startup Grind Charleston is another one. It's a monthly program that meets, and an entrepreneur speaks about their experience growing their business. So definitely relevant whether you're for profit or nonprofit. But it's another great networking event that you can go to. The next one is the Charleston Chamber. There's a nonprofit track to being a part of the Charleston Metro Chamber of Commerce, and it is a great resource and another great place to connect with business people who could be possible sponsors, possible board members, possible volunteers. Lastly, I have a couple of Facebook groups. There's one that I'm a part of called Nonprofits Unleashed. It's a great group. There's thousands of people in it, and they ask questions of this big community. So if you were on there and you were having some issues with your bylaws, you could go on that group and say, hey, is anyone willing to share their organization's bylaws with me? And you would have people say, yes, I'll send you mine. Yes, I'll send you mine. And then you could have things to look over. Social media is a great resource for growing your nonprofit and connecting with people that will help you just because they want to help. You can also find people that will charge you on there for sure. But that one, Nonprofit Happy Hour, is it's another great group of really experienced development professionals that are on there. But they talk about some really interesting topics. And then I would charge everybody to get involved with the Charleston Young Professionals, which is an offshoot of the Chamber of Commerce. They have a lot of different nonprofits involved. I'm a part of that group. So you don't just have to be a for-profit to be involved in that. They do social events every month for networking and meetups and things like that. There are a ton of different groups out there that do this. These are just a couple of my favorites and ones that I've seen nonprofits engage in and seen nonprofits grow because they're a part of them. But whatever, I highly recommend networking to get your mission out there. I've seen organizations grow very quickly that use LinkedIn to recruit board members. They use social media to recruit board members. It does two things. It helps market your organization and your mission, and it helps you recruit those board members that you need. So I would definitely consider having social media as an asset that you have. That's what I've got. I'd love to hear some questions, and I really appreciate you guys being a part of this and letting me talk to y'all, and happy to share this presentation with you. There's a couple of different resources in here, and I'm ready to answer questions if you have any.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation and that information, Daniel. We really appreciate it. Some good stuff. At least, we have to have a place to start, a basic foundation. And I think thinking through, number one, whether or not you should even be a nonprofit or not is the starting point. That seems to be a point of contention for a lot of people. Which way should I go? Do I want to own this thing? Do I want the profits, or do I want it to belong to my community, basically? And so with that said, we're going to open it up for any questions that we might have. Please just raise your hand and Evie and I will help navigate you to the mic. Ms. O'Meara, I see you unmuted. Did you have a question?
I don't really have a question. I just have a comment as a board member and a former ED. I would just say that as you're choosing your board, just make sure, like you said, that they really support your mission, but they need to also be committed to the cause and willing to work, because being on a nonprofit board is work. It's not just my name is on the letterhead. You need to plan to really buckle down and invest in that nonprofit.
I would agree with
Very
that.
much so. And Ms. O'Meara is an excellent example of what a board member, what any of us would aspire to have as a board member. And she's been an excellent asset to Increasing Hope. And we're going to miss her. She's on her way out. We're definitely going to miss her. Oh, anyone else have any questions? All right, so you guys are awfully quiet. No questions. I am going to begin to unmute. We're asking you to unmute so that you have the ability to speak, and or just raise your hand, either one. Robert, you had a question earlier. Okay, Robert, there you go.
Yes, I'm trying to unmute.
Okay, I got you. Go ahead.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. No, I don't have a question, but I was sitting here thinking, and I appreciate this wonderful presentation. You did a good job, Mr. Host. I was in a meeting yesterday, a Zoom meeting, nonprofit related. And one of the things I shared with one of the participants was, because oftentimes the people that were sharing, this word came up a lot, and the word was passion. And one thing I shared with her is that one thing about when you have passion, it won't be difficult to express that. So with regards to the nonprofits that each one of the participants may have or considering starting, you may come up against somebody, with the passion that you have. You may come up against somebody that doesn't have the passion that you have for whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. And I just want to offer that, don't allow that to discourage you, and just to continue on what you're trying to do.
I would agree with that. Part of the idea of starting a nonprofit is because you are passionate about the mission, and you're passionate about the people that you're serving, because you are creating a community asset. And so it should and will be embraced by the community. So that's true. And I would also say that you just like in a business, you're gonna have naysayers. Nonprofit, you're gonna have naysayers that don't agree with what you're saying or don't think that you're right, and that's how all these great things are started. You're always gonna have two sides. So I think that's well said.
Yeah, passion, you can't do it without passion for it. And that passion will also carry over to others. They might not come to the table with a passion, but if they are around you long enough and to a certain extent, it will begin to rub off on people, and that passion just causes people to want to engage. So thank you so much for that comment, Robert. Daniel, we have a question that says, is there anyone or do you know anything about a grant that would help with startup costs?
A grant that would help with startup costs.
Just go out there in the street and hold your hand out.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I think it would depend on your mission. I would say that depending upon what your mission is and the community that you're trying to serve, I believe that there are. I'd have to know a little bit more about who you're wanting to serve and the mission that you have. But there are certainly resources out there for that. But I would tell you that they are highly competitive. Okay.
And this is what I would share. Remember, Daniel, you mentioned in your presentation, which was great, a nonprofit is a business. You are a business first. You just happen to be classified as a nonprofit. Just like any other entrepreneur, small business owner, normally you start with your own cash. You make an investment in that company or in that organization. Me and my husband used to jokingly say that my organization was funded by the Bank of Bernique. And that was because we funded the organization till we got to the point where we were getting the grants that could run it, or getting the donor support that could run it. But just like anything else, we always want other people's money. We always want OPM, but you also are going to need to put your own funds in there and be prepared to support that organization in the startup stages to a certain extent. And will you find some of those grants? Maybe, potentially, but do you want this nonprofit bad enough? Then you may have to find your own resources and use your own resources to start it. So
I would agree. And I would also say that, Ebony and I were talking about this before we got started. I think you'll find the nonprofit route is not necessarily the cheaper route. So that shouldn't be part of the decision making. It's like, and I say that because I've done both, and they're similar in cost. I think that what might be more beneficial is coming up with a strategy, and there are some startup costs that you would have to put forth yourself. But if you can hit the ground running with a good plan for individuals, talking to businesses, these are very quick ways to raise money, and it's about asking. Obviously you have to have a track record of doing the work in the community for a little bit. And Shanna, I think you said that you were looking to start a homeless shelter. Which part of town are you in, if you don't mind me asking? Somerville. Okay, cool. I think that a great group to go talk to would be 180 Place, which is downtown. That way you can learn if you're volunteering, or if you're just going in there to ask them a couple of questions because you're interested in learning more. 180 Place downtown would say, hey, here's how long it took us. And they may say, it took us 10 years to get here. It took us 5 years to get here. And here's the things that we did. And I don't think that any nonprofit is going to not give you their playbook. But I think when you find that playbook, you'll understand that it's difficult.
And so we have one last question. I'm going to share one resource as well. Guys, those of you that are looking to start a nonprofit and just want, in addition to what Daniel has shared with us today, if you will go, did you have Together SC on there as a resource?
I did.
Okay, so Together SC, the statewide nonprofit association, is a great resource. And so our last question is, Daniel, is there a way that you can be both a nonprofit and have things for profit as well? Like an example, a facility with a gift shop in it.
Yes, so you can. Essentially what happens is if you have a nonprofit and you have an LLC associated with it. So in the case of Beyond Basic, they are a 501c3 nonprofit, but they have a for-profit business that sells pottery. So the individuals with disability make pottery. The money made from that is then donated, or I'm not going to use the right term, but donated back to the nonprofit and as a donation. Does that make sense? So you can do that. Yeah. Did I freeze? Can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sorry.
I can.
I guess Dorothea froze and everyone else didn't have a face up and I thought I froze. Does that make sense? So yes, you can. You can do that. And that's a great way to have an interesting kind of loom of value. You have this for-profit that is constantly donating to your nonprofit organization on top of the other things. It's kind of another stream of income. So it's very interesting. Yeah.
Daniel, there's another question if you guys hadn't answered already. Is there a cheat sheet in order of business to get started? So I think they're asking if there's an order that they should follow to start.
Yes. Actually, I would push everybody towards that resource in the presentation for Together SC. It's a life cycle of the whole process. So that particular link will tell you step 1 is here, all the way down to the bottom, paperwork, everything. So that link to Together SC is a very, very good resource as far as the having everything in one place.
Thank you. All right, participants, is there any other questions? And I'll also put our email address in the chat. As a matter of fact, let me share Daniel's as well. That way, if there's any questions, maybe you have some time and you go back and replay the video, you can definitely reach out to us. You can definitely reach out to Daniel. That is one of the things, if you cannot tell, that he's super, super passionate about, which is one of the things that we love over here at Increasing Hope, is helping business owners, sharing. Collaboration is key. That is one of our principles that we stand on here at Increasing Hope. So if we figured it out, we're more than willing to lend what we've paid for in time and equity so you don't have to face some of those same hurdles. Daniel, is there any other closing remarks?
No, I would say I would kind of echo what you said. I'm happy to meet with people and learn about what you want to do and see if I can help any further. I really enjoy helping people get started. So happy to just meet, and you can pick my brain and I can give you the best advice I can give you. So please feel free to reach out to me for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here, sharing a little of your time and expertise with us, and have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Oh, wait, one last thing. On the 18th of this month, we're having a community impact breakfast. Did I mention free breakfast? So come out and share with us. There'll be lots of opportunities to see what we've done this year. There's lots of transparency and Increasing Hope, so you'll know exactly how we've helped families, how we've helped businesses, minorities, the community at large that we strive every day to make an impact in. It will be at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Tanger Outlet from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. So come and share some breakfast with us, see what we're doing, see how you can partner with our efforts and where you may find your fit. All right, have a great rest of your week and weekend. Stay safe and see you soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye, everyone.